This is Cabane the Christian, and, well, Jack made a video a while ago called Question for the Jesus Mythicist, and someone did respond, but he hasn't responded yet. I don't know why. Well, looks like, the job is left up to Cabane to respond to Kikai93, known as Juggernaut on Instagram. Here we go.
Okay, I've had to break this argument into installments because I have a wealth of information on the topic. The first installment is why an historical Jesus never existed.
My position contradicted by the majority of scholars.
So, first of all, there's no contemporary historical record of any kind of Jesus.
There's no contemporary reference to Confucius or Aristotle either. Or, I'm sorry, Socrates.
There's no Roman, Greek, or Jewish sources from the time that Yeshua, who in Greek is Jesus, supposedly lived.
Okay, Jesus lived for about 37 years. He ministered for only 3 of them. At this time, he did not attain a huge following. He preached to a group of about maximum 5,000 men. This is not a huge following. You have to remember there are a lot of cult leaders around this time, okay? There are a lot of cult leaders around this time, and Jesus would have been viewed by his contemporaries as sort of a cult leader. Later, when Jesus became big, Christianity became big, he would have been seen fit to be referenced by Josephus and such. You also have to remember that, do you really think that people forget that quickly? I'm going to be explaining why Josephus is not a forgery later, but by the time Josephus references Jesus, he was born about 4 years after the time Jesus apparently lived. Do you really think they're going to forget that quickly? Do you think his dad didn't know that Jesus was just a myth?
There's absolutely nothing.
There's absolutely nothing for Confucius either. Let's throw his existence out the window. Oh, and by the way, most Jewish rabbis don't have contemporary references, but no one disputes their existence.
None of the literate contemporaries of Jesus know anything about him. The Jewish historian Justus of Tiberia, who lived in the time of Jesus, knows nothing of him.
Okay, Justus's silence. You know there are writers that are silent about certain people. Happens sometimes. Sometimes they just don't talk about them. Does that mean they didn't exist? Especially if we've got other historical references. No. This is a bad argument from silence.
And Tiberia was a city not far from Capernaum, which Jesus often visited according to the biblical text. And the Jewish scholar and leader of Alexandria, Philon, doesn't mention Jesus anywhere in his texts. Philon was a famous scholar of the Old Testament, and he had a deep knowledge of the Jewish cults of his time, including the heretical ones. So, for those of you who believe that the Gospels are contemporary sources, even though they're not...
Okay, Philo, he didn't reference Jesus. For one, he may have not lived long enough to see Christianity become a threat, or big enough for him to reference. Secondly, again, bad argument from silence, because we've got other writers which reference Jesus.
We don't even know who the writers of the Gospels were, and we don't...
Oh my. You know, Tacitus's works, Annals, they're internally anonymous as well, but universal tradition holds that they were written by Tacitus, and historians don't dispute this. Now, I'm not saying that historians don't dispute the authorship of the Gospels. They do. But I believe that we can establish that the Gospels were authored by, or under the guidance of Matthew, the original version. Mark was written by Mark, under the guidance of Peter. Luke was written by Luke. John was written by John the Apostle, or John the Elder.
Don't have the original manuscripts either.
Oh no. Oh god. We don't have the original manuscripts. Oh I forgot. We don't have the original manuscripts for anything of antiquity. Sorry for the chaos.
What we do have is copies of copies of copies of copies of copies.
Oh, isn't that what we have for, like, all works of antiquity and ancient times? Like the Iliad? You know, if you read the only all you have is a copy of 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 a copy. In fact, over 1,000 years removed from the original source. Oh, but if you get pull out your Bible, the Gospels, we're talking about 200 years removed. Not long at all.
Of the assumed lost originals. That's right, the best that we have of the Gospels is 5th removed. Anyway,
that's really good. The New Testament is the best attested work of antiquity. The best. We have so many manuscripts that we can cross-check, and there are only a few disputed, in comparison to the rest of the NT, there are only a few disputed verses, and none of these affect any Christian doctrine.
One acquainted with history as a science knows how reliable that is.
Yeah, pretty damn reliable.
For those of you who are unfamiliar, it isn't reliable at all.
Oh, you're the one who's unfamiliar, sorry.
And the reason is this. In the ancient world, with each copy, the copyist usually felt free to alter details or rewrite whole parts of the manuscript.
Oh? Really? Okay. We're gonna have to throw out ancient history now. Because all we really have is copies of copies, and more removed than the Gospels. We're gonna have to throw that out too. Okay, just throw Annals out. I guess you won't do that because he references Jesus. Throw Antiquities of the Jews out. Throw Philo's works out, for heaven's sake, because and you rest on that argument too. Okay, Kikai, you're sort of acting very silly right now. I'm sorry. I say it.
We know this by comparing the various manuscripts we do have from that time period, not just biblical, but other manuscripts as well.
Such as quotations from church fathers.
And what we usually find out is exactly what I just said. Now, we don't...
Oh god, he's so wrong. Okay, 90% of these variations are spelling errors. Don't matter. 5% is just the result of Greek not being an inflected language, so it doesn't matter. 95% of these variations don't matter. The other 5%, usually a variation in a word which doesn't have any effect on Christian doctrine. Kikai, Juggernaut, give me one textual disputed verse which affects any Christian doctrine. One.
Usually trust anonymous sources given to fabrication as evidence for anything, do we?
If they're established to be historically reliable. The Book of Acts and Luke reference over about 30 to 40 cities, provinces, and things. Guess how many they got wrong? 0.
But wait, the name Christ is mentioned in some later texts, such as Tacitus, Suetonius, and Pliny. But they...
I'm not going to be dealing with Suetonius. I'm not going to be dealing with... Actually, I'm going to be dealing with Tacitus, Pliny, and he's going to mention Josephus as well, so I'm going to deal with that. Suetonius, I don't generally use that, ever. It's weak.
Then, merely as the name of the idol of the Christians worship. Let's see what these sources actually say about Christ. Tacitus says, Christus, the founder of the name, had undergone the death penalty in the reign of Tiberius, by sentence of Pontius Pilate, and the pernicious superstition, which he's referring to Christianity there, was checked for a moment, only to break out once more, not merely in Judea, the home of the disease, but in the capital itself, where all things horrible or shameful in the world collect and find a vogue. This is mere hearsay.
Oh! Thanks. Thanks for telling us. Oh, Tacitus. Tacitus was not one given to hearsay. And of course it's not Christian hearsay because he's insulting Christianity. He obviously didn't get this from a Christian source.
Doesn't claim to be an eyewitness to Jesus.
No, why does that destroy his credibility?
And this isn't really usable as evidence of an historical Jesus figure.
Please go tell that to historians.
Now, since the Jews constantly made disturbances at the instigation of Chrestus, according to Suetonius, Claudius expelled them from Rome. In Latin, that's Judaeus impulsore Cresto assidue tumultuantes Claudius Roma expulit. This is also mere hearsay, not any kind of suitable evidence for the existence of an historical Jesus.
Well, I said I wasn't going to deal with this because I don't really think it refers to Jesus. Probably Crestus is another name. But how do you know it's hearsay? He didn't give any evidence. We're going to continue this rebuttal in another video because I'm going over time.